Hey there, fellow travelers, Mark here with Wolters World. Today we're here in Athens, Greece, and today we're going to talk about our tourist traps. But tourist traps in Europe that you should really actually go to at least one time in your life. Because I know a lot of people say, oh, there's so many tourist traps, you should never visit them. But some are so cool that even though they're a tourist trap, you should go at least one time. And I'm going to start actually here in Greece, and that is Santorini. You know, the island that's in the volcano caldera that has the beautiful white buildings, that blue dome. You see it in every single Greek tourism brochure in the world. I mean, it's everywhere. The thing is, it's so popular, it gets so overrun with tourists that it really sometimes feels like a tourist trap with all the overpriced restaurants, the accommodation, just people everywhere, the donkeys and all this stuff. You're just like, oh man, this is just too much for a tourist trap. But the thing is, Santorini is gorgeous. You should go at least one time. Like, go see it one time, enjoy it that one time, and then go explore some of the other beautiful islands in Greece. But honestly, it feels like a tourist trap, but you really got to go for that beauty, because Santorini really is worth going to, okay? Now, the next tourist trap that's worth seeing at least one time when you travel is actually the Mona Lisa in Paris. You know, you go to the Louvre, the biggest, most fanciest museum you can imagine when you go to France, and you go there, and you go see the Mona Lisa, and people tell you it's a tourist trap because it's a small painting, and you don't actually get to get close to it, and there's huge crowds around it, and they kind of make it really difficult to actually see the Mona Lisa. And is it really the real Mona Lisa that's there if you go into the conspiracy theory stuff? So it feels kind of like a tourist trap. But the thing is, you should see it. It's the Mona Lisa. Go there at least one time and see that, and you're like, okay, I saw it. Then turn around and see the huge Marriage of Cana painting that's there. That's really cool. And the thing is, if you see the Mona Lisa, you're like, okay, I've seen that. What's another museum I can see that isn't overrun like the Louvre, and I don't have to deal with that craziness? Just go across the river to the Musée d'Orsay, and you can enjoy amazing paintings there. Now, my next tourist trap that you really should do is taking a Beefeater tour when you go to the Tower of London in London, England. I mean, honestly, for me, the best part of going to the Tower of London is actually the Beefeater tour. And it's the guys, they're all dressed up and they tell you the history of the tower and all the things there. And it's not just going to see, you know, the crown jewels. It's so much more. And the thing is, when you see it, you think, oh, this is a tourist trap. I'm just going to go through the tower and see the things on my own and do this and see the crown jewels. It'll be fine. No, honestly, pay the money, go in the tower, and go be a part of one of those Beefeater tours. Because yes, it really is touristy, but it's so much fun. You got to do it at least one time. Now, another one-time thing I recommend doing is actually taking a gondola ride when you're in Venice. Yes, it is one of the biggest tourist traps out there. It is not cheap to go on them. But the thing is, if you got 2 or 3 friends you're going with, you can, you know, split it between the 4 of you, and then everybody's only paying like 20 euros versus like 80 euros for the trip, right? And the thing is, going through there, watching the buildings go, having the guy push you around, it's one of those things that one time, it's worth it. Twice, I don't think so. But one time. And yes, you do have to tip them more to get them to sing, but it is one of those things you're like, all right, I got to do it at least one time when I'm here. Now, another super tourist trap that is so nice and so much fun to go to, especially for tourists that just want to kind of lay back and enjoy a nice time and a nice beer, is if you go to the Hofbrauhaus in Munich, Germany. Now, there's tons of brew houses. There's tons of beer halls in Munich you can go to. I like going to Augustina Brewery to eat and drink and have a nice time, but the Hofbrauhaus is totally tourism. I mean, they've got the Oompa bands playing there, and they're doing the chicken dance, or the duck dance they call, you know, yes, can you see why I don't do TikTok dances? But the thing is, when you go there, there's so many people there that are just there to have a big beer, to have a good time, to have the Haxa, to just enjoy being a tourist, that is so much fun to just do it at least one time when you're there. I've gone to Munich dozens of times, and honestly, I go at least one time each visit. I do go to the Hofbrauhaus just to sit there and smile and enjoy the touristiness of it. So if you're going to be in Munich, don't be too cool for tourist trap Hofbrauhaus. You should go at least one time and have the big beer for me, okay? Hofbrauhaus, you definitely have to go and visit when you come at least once. Heck yeah! So that's why it's on this list of places that, yes, it's a tourist trap, but it is worth going to just for the fun of it. Now, the next tourist trap you gotta see is the Eiffel Tower. And I know the Eiffel Tower really gets on so many tourist traps lists, but honestly, it's worth going to see. And I'm not saying you have to go up all the way to the top, but just going there, being at the base of it, seeing how big it is, going to the park behind it, even if you're just going to be taking, you know, one of the Seine, you know, river cruises kind of things, it's worth going and seeing just to be like, okay, I've been here. And yes, you see it from all over the city of Paris, but to be there and like stand underneath it, you're like, this is kind of cool. This is well worth it, okay? So at least once on one of your trips to Paris, at least go buy it. Like, go stand here and take it in, because it's worth it. Even if it's just for a little bit of time. And I think sometimes that's where a lot of these tourist traps come in, is people spend too much time in them. But if you realize that some of these things are good for a half day or a couple hours, it actually makes it from a tourist trap to, hey, it's a nice part of my trip. And I think another kind of tourist trap that you should definitely visit, that some people put in that touristy trappy, why are we going there kind of thing, is Stonehenge. You know, if you're outside of Bath or between London and Bath, there's Stonehenge, and you have the stone circle there. But the thing is, their information center there is so informative. It's fantastic. You learn so much. But when you go there and walk around it and take it all in and hear the stories about it, it really is a cool experience. But the thing is, it's a half day. Okay, if you're going to think you're going to spend a whole day there, then it really is a tourist trap. And that whoever's giving you that tour of a full day at Stonehenge, no, you do not need that much time. But it's cool to go one time when you go there and take it in. And if you think that's enough time, go on. Go to Bath and enjoy Bath. Bath is a beautiful city in England. They should really have a nice time, and it's really close to Stonehenge. Now, another super touristy, trappy place, but it's still fun to go to one time, is the Temple Bar in Dublin. Now, Temple Bar is an area in Dublin, and when usually people talk about Temple Bar, they're talking about the Temple Bar, like the one pub that's there. I mean, there's a lot of pubs there, but there's one specific pub, and yes, it's a little pricier than other places for a drink, but honestly, just going there to be with all the other tourists that are there, it's just kind of a fun thing. And you could do that, but just having one drink and then going out from there, because here's the thing, you're in Dublin. There are so many fantastic pubs in that city. You don't really have to go to the Temple Bar to really enjoy a pub time when you're there. But as a tourist, I mean, even if you just get the pictures from the outside, because it's kind of pretty, it's worth taking it in and having that one drink and then going on your way. But at least one time you should do that when you are in Dublin. Now, a museum that falls on a lot of lists is the Checkpoint Charlie Museum in Berlin. And this is one that I used to live in Berlin. I lived there for a number of years. I actually like going to the Checkpoint Charlie Museum. I don't know why they call it a, really tourist trap kind of place, but I think part of it is Checkpoint Charlie represents a time in history with the Cold War and people trying to escape from East Germany. And the Checkpoint Charlie Museum tells their stories and gives you examples. It's kind of a cool thing to see. But the thing is people don't realize how important that checkpoint was, what it meant at that time. So going there, you actually learn quite a bit, and it's worth going to. Even if you just go one time, it's worth doing that when you are in Berlin. Now, I wouldn't go like every single time you go to Berlin. I'd rather go to the Pergamon Museum, honestly, every time I go to Berlin. But, one time going to that Checkpoint Charlie Museum, learning about that history, how people got from East Germany to West Germany or East Berlin to West Berlin. It's an incredible story that they share there. Now, some people say the pile of rocks behind me is a tourist trap. No, going up the Acropolis and going to see the Parthenon up on top is not a tourist trap. When you go up there, yes, there's probably going to be a lot of tourists going there up there with you, and it can be hot and it can beat down on you. But being up close, because I know it looks really cool from here, but when you're up close to it, you're like, wow, that is insanely impressive. Like, it really is an amazing experience. And when you come to Athens, when you're flying in, you first see the Acropolis, or when you're walking around Mostaiki or the Plaka district, and you turn a corner and you see it up there. You see the Acropolis, the Parthenon up there. You're like, oh my God, this is so cool. You have that great vibe. So you should go up at least one time. Now, if you're going to be here and you've gone once, you probably don't need to go again because it can get very hot up there. But at least that one time, you don't pass up on going to the Parthenon and going up to the Acropolis. It is actually a really cool experience. And then there's a tourist trap that pretty much shows up at all big cities, all famous cities in Europe, and that is the town square. Like the main square and the restaurants on the main square, those cafes on the main square. Because since they're in that prime location where everybody wants to be, sometimes the prices might be a little bit higher and the flavor might be a little bit lower on some of the dishes. But honestly, you're not there for the food and drink, you're there for the view. And that's why I say, you know what, sometimes it's okay to sit on Piazza San Marco and drink an overpriced spritz just so you can sit there and take in the basilica, and you can take in the square, you can take in the people. When you're in Prague and you're sitting on the square and they're trying to trick you into getting that too expensive beer, it's worth it just to be there and take it all in. And that's why I tell people, we can go off the beaten path. We can go 3 or 4 blocks away from the main sites and get cheaper food and cheaper drinks. But sometimes that tourist trap restaurant with that perfect view, I mean, come on. Who wouldn't want that view when you're having a drink, right? Knocking back a Mythos or some ouzo here and just taking that in, sometimes it's worth it, okay? So what are some of the tourist traps that you think are worth doing here in Europe? Please put it in the comment section below so we can help out other travelers know tourist trap that it's okay to go to. And honestly, I have another video on tourist traps that are definitely not worth going to, so you don't make your trip about them. But all these here, they're worth at least one visit. Bye from here in Athens.